is the senator around? Very good. Our own diaspora Charles Oliver Tall. Come to your stands, please, as you can move faster. Charles Oliver Tall. Stanley Captain. Mweni Muli. Mweni, where are you? Where's Mweni? Mweni Muli. Find her where she is. And Diana Muhoro, a millennial person. Diana, is Diana here? Oh, there she is. Mweni Muli. Oh. I'm passing over to Elizabeth. Elizabeth. Oh, by the way, we are auctioning, we are selling tickets for Kenya Airways, direct flight from New York to Nairobi, round trip. They are raffling tickets for $10. See our front guys to help you with that. Also, the counties that have not paid for their dues, please do so. These events, we gotta cover it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Elizabeth Odor, as you were earlier told. I'm the treasurer of the KDAC, and I'm here to introduce the next session, which is the cultural and economic barriers inhibiting the Kenyan development agenda. The chair for the session is Dr. Joyce Loboso, who is going to give a few remarks and then open it to the panel.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, members, I know this is the last panel, and I'm sure a lot of people are now a little bit tired, but we want to see if we can do this as quickly as we can, but at the same time, make sure that we get maximum out of this. As you have heard, this is about cultural and economic barriers inhibiting Kenyans' development agenda. I want to introduce myself, as you had earlier said. I'm Joyce Laboso, the governor of Bomet County, and also the chair finance in the Council of Governors. I'm glad to hear somebody say, when you hear about governors in Kenya, it is they're like small gods whom you cannot approach or go and stand near. But I'm glad that you have seen they are just very, very normal and ordinary people, like a lot of you. I am sure after the first lot of governors, if at all that impression was given, reality must have come in when they found over half of them being thrown out of the seats. So for some of us, for this new lot of governors, I think we are a bit more mellow, and we realize this is a job that can also disappear tomorrow. So it is good that we really get in touch with reality. Now, I have very great panelists here that are going to give us, each of them make small remarks, and maybe immediately after them, I will really ask the remaining few governors who haven't spoken, for you to hear their voice and to see that they are really very much people like yourselves. But before I call them, I just want to make a brief introduction. The tension that plagued the nation during elections, and in particular, the uncertainty of the outcome of the recently concluded August and October 2017 presidential election, has resulted in very deep-seated ethnic divisions amongst Kenyans, within and even without the diaspora. Peace and cohesion is a key aspect of this development. This topic will largely focus on the ethnic and the cultural barriers, including tribalism, that are detrimental to development of our country. County governments are mandated to protect and promote the interests of minorities and marginalized communities, to promote social and economic development and the provision of proximate easily accessible services throughout Kenya, and finally to ensure equitable sharing of national and local resources throughout Kenya. In a bid to promote cohesion amongst the youth in Kenya, as Council of Governors annually coordinates the Kenya Youth Inter-County Sports Association games that bring together the youths from the 47 counties. These games are organized, supported and fully funded by the Council of Governors, and they are held annually, as I said. So far, there have been 3 successful editions in the past. In Laikipia, one was held in Kwale and also in Siaya district, and more recently in Makueni. These games are aimed at identifying and nurturing talent so as to enhance national cohesion among the youth and further address the issue of very high school dropouts. The Council has also held its inaugural Children's Devolution Conference in February of 2017, where over 300 boys and girls participated from across the 47 counties. A communique was developed and was presented to concerned stakeholders for implementation. We hope that by identifying and breaking these barriers, the development agenda will significantly improve, giving room for massive growth in the counties. So I quite highly encourage cooperation, collaboration, support from our fellow Kenyans like yourselves in the diaspora to continue giving us ideas and to help us break these barriers and ensure that development agenda is enhanced. So it is now my singular privilege to first of all give, so that we get the perspective from government. Ambassador Hussein Dado, to start us off. Please, as you have heard, these people are now tired. We want to really summarize, yes? And I'm sure because this is a topic that is sensitive and that we know a lot of you have interest in, that we really make very brief statements so that we can allow them to ask us more questions and more interactions between themselves and ourselves. Welcome, Bwana Hussein, Ambassador Hussein Dado. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Governor Laboso. I will do away with whatever I have prepared. I'll only touch on 1 or 2 things and then let you ask the questions. First of all, why do we attach a lot of importance to you in the diaspora? There are over 3 million of you outside Kenya. In US, you are about 102,000. How do we characterize you? You are very highly educated, economically successful, and hardworking. And so that is why we have all come this way to talk to you. And what are the issues that you lack when you talk of investment barriers? Special product, that is lack of structured investment products that are tailor-made to address your needs. This exists mainly in real estate, fixed income, and investment opportunities. Partners, lack of trusted partner who truly represents your interest as an institutional firm providing institutional grade investment solutions and client service. Platform, the inability to safely and conveniently remit funds back to their country. Now, what has Kenya government done to promote diaspora involvement? Of course, there is the issue of dual citizenship, which I'm sure is benefiting most of you who have taken citizens' right, voting rights. But most importantly, Kenya diaspora policy of 2014, I'm not going to detail, and there is what we call business facilitation, where in September 2015, President Kenyatta signed into law Business Regulations Act of 2015 and Companies Act of 2015, which aims to strengthen Kenya's position in destination for investors. I will not go into details of that. Policies towards foreign direct investment, you can ask questions. What are that? There are some acts that have posed as a challenge to your investment. The company is Act 2015. There are some gray areas: Telecommunication Regulation, Communication Authority, the new Mining Act. These are the areas where we are now looking at. Before I go further, I would like to assure my brother who was here earlier talking about the ADR. We have gone very far as a ministry of devolution to develop alternative dispute resolution mechanism. We went around the country to validate those regulations. Unfortunately, our brothers, the governors and sisters, Excellency governors were not available in these forums. The Council of Governors only sent some junior officers. So by the time we were reporting to the summit recently, they all said maybe they didn't get enough on this. But with the regulations are ready, they have been validated. Now when you come, you will just marry yourself into what is already in place. Way forward, I'm just finishing. We are looking at investment promotion and facilitation initiatives targeting Kenyans abroad. Establishment of intermediary facility to provide investment and management services to Kenyans abroad. Develop specific investment product and incentive that specifically targets you, our brothers and sisters, and public-private partnership engagements. The current laws are not very favorable in public-private partnership. Something is being done to review them. Lowering cost of diaspora transactions and aggregate diaspora remittance for optimal investment. Kenyans living abroad will also be enjoying preferential duty waivers and other concessions for diaspora business extension and formal banking opportunities, and cheaper cost of financial transfers and issuance of diaspora bonds, among other initiatives. On the issue of cultural barriers, please listen carefully. The mistake where most of you who have been outside the country have been making is comparing what you see in USA to Kenya. Let me just give you an example. Kenya is the only country in the world so far that passes a constitution this year, hold election next year, and fully devolve the same year. Governors will bear with me that we went to a meeting of regional governments forum in the world in Cartagena, Argentina. What did we come across? One country for 84 years could only manage to decentralize one function. In Kenya, we pass the law today, devolve tomorrow everything. This is next to a miracle. US has been there for over 200 years. So when you start comparing us, really, that is a barrier you are creating for yourself. Help us improve. And sometimes, attitude. Now when we are talking of cultural barrier, attitude matters. I'll just use a very strange example. Please forgive me if it touches on anybody. When I arrived here and I was talking to somebody, somebody told me, you have a very interesting accent. Where do you come from? Because I said, I come from Kenya. If I want, I can change to American accent. And anyway, I'm not an American. So, you see, some of you, when you go back home with your heavy American accent, and the way you approach issues really matters. One of you went to look for a job in the government of the Republic of Kenya. As he was being interviewed, if you know Kenya well, presidency is a symbol of national unity. Now he kept on referring to the president, Mr. Kinyara, Mr. Kinyara, and by the time the interview was finished, people sitting in one room were saying, wachana na huyu amekaa huko nje, ameongea na mapua na anaanza kuita rais yetu Mr. Kinyara, and he lost that job anyway, he didn't get it. So sometimes your own attitude turns out to be a barrier to you achieving your goals there back home. Please bring us all the good things. The ladies here. I am very impressed with the nurses and the ladies who said they are ready to invest back home. These nurses, I did a nursing diplomacy among the first in Namibia. I took them nurses and I took Namibian patients to Kenya when I was an ambassador to do heart operation. Yes, South Africa. The first open heart surgery was just next door. Somehow I convinced them. Do you know what the press of those Wazungus, the Boers, said? How can you leave a grown-up and consult a 10-year-old? It's like consulting a 10-year-old. We made sure those patients were operated on well. Kenyatta was receiving 3.5 million per patient. And me and the then Minister for Health of Namibia were at the airport to receive and prove them wrong that Kenya was even doing better than South Africa. You know, so what am I trying to say here? Learn what is best from outside. Bring it back home. But some of these attitudes, my friend, leave it back here. On those few remarks, but we are there to facilitate you, and we understand you, and we value you as our diaspora. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we have the official government position, and I think he has done a very good job of trying to, educate us a little bit about what are some of the cultural barriers. I now want to turn to His Excellency Stephen Sang, our youngest governor. So he must be swag and understand the language of the youth. And we want to ask him, the millennia, yes, there is a new term called millennials, and I think he belongs there. What is it that we are doing as Council of Governors, or as governors, in terms of addressing this cultural and economic and and economic barriers that are inhibiting, us moving forward as Kenyans? Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Governor Laboso. This topic is a bit too wide, and I think Ambassador Hussein has done justice, more particularly to the cultural aspect. I would want to say that, one, I want to thank the opportunity, to thank the team that organized this forum. I want to focus specifically on the economic barriers, because at the end of the day, if you want to talk about development in Kenya, and in terms of the economic barriers, I think those are the issues that we really need to deal with. Issues of culture are things that we can be able to change quite well. These are issues that we can be able to deal with. But economic barriers are things that we must be able to put our attention to. And I think a number of those issues were raised earlier before. One, the cost of land in Kenya. You can't do development in any nation without access to land. And one of the challenges that we have, and I know when we had discussions initially here, people are saying you are being conned as diasporians who want to invest in Kenya, that you are conned of your resources as you try to buy, for example, land. One of the challenges that we must as a nation in Kenya address is the cost of land. We have lost a lot of serious investments within the region to our neighboring countries, countries like Uganda, Tanzania, on account of land alone. If you want to do a project in Kenya today, the cost of acquiring land equals the cost of the project itself. And therefore, if you want to do a railway, you want to do a road, you want to do a pipeline, if you have to spend X amount of money on acquiring the land and spend another X amount to build, that does not attract development that we need. And therefore, maybe you need to help us here. We see a lot of space and availability of land here. We see a lot, I'm sure there is legislation with regard to the land, the price index in terms of land. How can you be able to help us ensure that in Kenya, we have available land for us to do investments and therefore be able to deal with development? The second issue that I think is important for us is the cost of power. We do not have reliable power. How do we attract investment and development in Kenya if we do not deal with the land? We do not deal with cost of power. I know, for example, and Governor Ngilu mentioned here, that in some countries we have coal. There is a move globally from coal towards clean energy. But by the time we reach that level of generating enough clean energy in our country, we must still be able to deal with, use the available resources in terms of coal for us to move forward. So the other aspect is the cost of power. As country, and I think Hussein representing national government, this is a function that we must be able to allow county governments to execute. We are partners ourselves who want to invest in solar power plants in Kenya. I know that is happening across, most of the governors have those kind of investors. How do we ensure that we have legislation that support the devolution of power generation in our country so that we can be able to have good energy, available and reliable energy for us to work in our country. The second final one that I want to mention is the taxation regime. We were told by the chairman here that we are increasing taxes in our republic. And that is true. Most of the taxes that are being levied in our country are increasing every year. How do we ensure that we're able to look at taxation as a process of facilitating development instead of using it as an inhibiting or executing taxation that ends up inhibiting and working negatively towards towards development. We have a lot of companies that are now shifting from Kenya to Tanzania, for example. If you ask them, the taxation regime in our country is a problem. So taxation regime must be reviewed so that we are able to create an enabling environment for us to do development, investment in our country. Finally, and I think again this was alluded to, no country has ever developed on account of big degrees. Arts courses are sometimes. Countries have developed on account of technical skills. We mentioned, and I will shock you, in my own county, I have 3 new technical training colleges. In one of them, we have 21 students. In another one, we have 17 students. In another one, we have 28 students. Yet the capacity of each of them is about 1,500 students. So how do we, and you go to the universities, and you have thousands of students doing Bachelor of Arts Anthropology. You ask yourself, you will graduate with a degree, you can even master and even a PhD, but honestly, or political science. In Maseno University, we produce a lot of students in political science, including my own brother. So I'm asking you, my friend, so you graduate, what are you going to do? Maybe that explains why we have a very highly political society instead of having skills that we need to transform our country. So I think, you must, and I know a lot of you in the diaspora educate our own brothers, sisters, relatives. And most of you are paying school fees to Maseno University, Moi University, Nairobi University to do Bachelor of Arts. Can you also help us change the mindset so that we tell our people, US, in America, UK, Germany, they never developed because of arts, they developed because of technical skills, and we are creating that environment for us to have those things. So I want to say that I want to limit myself to those points and insist that the responsibility of developing our nation rests both on government at both levels of government, but also on ourselves. It is our responsibility to do it, just like others have done it before. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that is very clear, and that is the position that we've also appreciated, even during our time in Santa Fe. What we learned from the governors is precisely what he has said. A lot of Americans are going back to school to reskill, to go and retrain, because a lot of the skills that they possess are no longer necessary or required by the job market. So you can see we have to find a way of making sure that this issue of technical education becomes ingrained and becomes accepted in our own country. I now want to call the Senator Kang'ata Irungu, who, as you all know, we have been told, Senate is a protector of the counties. Their job is to protect these new babies called counties. How do you think we can do this, Senator? By making sure that these barriers that can hinder development can be handled. Karibu sana, Senator.
Thank you. I'm Senator for Murang'a County. I'm starting with the economic barriers, then I go to the social barriers. On the economic barriers, one, there is always a debate as to where should the government emphasize on. Because we know a government can build roads, it can bring health, it can do education, but economists are yet to agree which is the best way. You intervene on this and then you get the best rewards. So you find some economists arguing you develop by putting more emphasis on what we call human capital development. Others argue no, you do more infrastructure. So you find in our Kenyan orientation, our budget, the three mainly funded items are usually one, security, number two, infrastructure, the Ministry of Roads, and then you may find education. But when you take education, for instance, it does not go to what we call the core aspect of education. That is, let's say, for instance, giving children food. It goes to pay salaries. 95% goes to salaries. So from where I sit, in my own opinion, I think more evidence shows when you put more money in what we call human development. That is, you give people more education.